everyone. Welcome to the first episode of Strategizing with Anna. This is an episode or a podcast where we talk all about marketing strategies and how to launch in markets. With me, I have Ryan, personal friend, Miami Tech ambassador, as well as coordinator, and overall the person that runs this place, Office Logic, where we're filming from.
For having me.
Of course, thanks for coming. So Ryan, welcome once again to the show. And I brought you onto this episode because it's talking about how products, specifically in tech companies are moving to the Miami market. And you are someone that has been in the tech scene for a while now. I wanted to first, before we get into all the deeps and dives of that, I want to first share a little bit about yourself, your journey. I know you began as a blogger, or you did blogging for a while, have worked in marketing as well, and you are now the Miami Tech ambassador.
Thank you, Anna. Yeah, I have a kind of an interesting history/story, I think. I've kind of been all over the place. I was born and raised in Pennsylvania, born in a town of 400 people. And I have done a lot of interesting things. I worked at Microsoft for a while. I did the whole West Coast. But yeah, so I ended up here in Miami in 2017, before the current tech boom. I know there's always been a scene here before I got here, obviously, but I've been involved in the current iteration of it.
You're right. There has been a tech scene, but it is really now when it's been vocalized. So I think you came right at the right time. In 2017, I was still in college. So I kind of came a little bit later into the tech scene, honestly, if it wasn't until maybe around 2019. Yeah, I think it was around 2019, 2020. So I want to know, how have you experienced the growth so far of the boom of it?
Sure. So when I got here in 2017, people thought I was crazy. My friends and family and people were like, what are you doing? Why are you moving to Miami from San Francisco? And I was like, I don't know. I like the weather and the beaches. Like, what more do I want? And then, it was quiet for 2017, 2018, 2019, and boom, COVID. And everyone and their mother moved here. Yep. And that is when Miami changed, at least for me. I guess I want to make sure that, I respect that there has been people working in tech here for a very long time. Yeah. But for me, it really kicked off in 2020, at the end of 2020.
I can agree to that statement as well. I think traditionally Miami, at least in the grander scale of things, has been known for real estate, has been known for law, has been known for medical and health. Not to say that there were not tech innovations happening, they were just not, once again, being as vocalized. And I do think COVID really is what drove that big, push forward in order to commence to what we have now. And which brings me to the next point. There's a couple of key players that are now moving down here, right? So we have Kaseya, we have Career Karma, which we met today. And that was really cool because I was researching for the podcast and then I just met him. I was like, oh my gosh, like what a coincidence.
Ruben is a really cool guy.
Yeah.
He's done really cool stuff for his company is amazing. It's really done amazing things.
Yeah. So we have them. We have Noble also coming, eMed with ever since COVID, right? So they're they brought about their COVID kits. Blackstone Private Equity moved down here as well. Brace Stations, the bootcamp and courses. So there's definitely a lot of things that are happening. And I want to say prior to that, I would say maybe there wasn't even as much of an emphasis on the STEM education here in Miami. And I can personally say that as someone who has taught in Miami-Dade public schools. And I think now there's more emphasis and even more funding going towards that, which is great. So with that being said, what do you think are some of the challenges that we're currently experiencing in the tech scene?
So you're talking about, what we sort of need in Miami Tech to grow? Mm-hmm. Well, I think there's two things. Because of the COVID boost that we got and the boom, we ended up with a lot of companies that were like COVID babies. Yeah. And that's great. People tried new things during COVID and a lot of things happened like NFTs and crypto and all that. What happened is there was a lot of companies that started here around that time that really were like sort of flash in the pans. And I'm not throwing shade on any particular one or anyone. It just happened. There was a lot of money floating around and people were trying to use it. Yeah. That's what happened. So we had a lot of those flash in the pans. And you've seen a lot over the last year, or even a couple of months, of those companies, closing up shop, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So what we need, I think, in Miami, one of our challenges now is we need companies that are like long-term, maybe a little more boring, but a little more stable, and companies that actually have uses and utilities. So for me, when I put effort into things at Mindtech, I look for companies that are going to be around for a while, that are doing good, and are a net positive to the community.
Right. And you're right. It does bring a really valid point. So personally, I have seen companies within the time span of a year open and close down in different industries, right? I have seen this in digital assets. I have seen this in health and fitness. And I do think that a big reason for that is because they're not truly understanding the Miami market. And I think you posted about this yesterday, actually. So you said that Miami doesn't look, right, or function like a city, like other cities, and that's our perk. And
well, so what I said there is that the fact that Miami doesn't look like a city in North America, it doesn't look, feel, or act or function like one of those is a feature, not a bug. And what happens is a lot of people come to Miami and they try and make it something that it really isn't, and that's fine. But to thrive in Miami, you have to embrace it for all: the good, the bad, the ugly, the amazing, and the terrible. You're not changing it. So
yeah, and that really resonated with me because I do think that's the issue that is being had here, which is companies are moving down and they're not truly taking the time to understand the Miami market, which is a completely different market than any other cities for many reasons. Whether it's the culture, first of all, we have a heavily Hispanic speaking culture. They also do not understand the demographics of Miami, right? So I have this thing where I call it the tourist bubble. So the tourist bubble for me is Edgewater, it's downtown, Brickell, Miami Beach. That is where most of the transplants move into, but it's also the area where companies think, that they're going to excel the most at. However, the transit there is either transplants that might not be here for the long run or tourists. And if you come and you're marketing just to that market of people, to the audience of people, you're not going to last long. So I think it's really a big issue of not understanding the market and understanding that there's more outside of that tourist bubble.
Absolutely. I know I live in a bubble. I know that the Brickell, downtown, South Beach, Edgewater, Wynwood is a bubble. Mm-hmm. I'm aware of that. And I've definitely made strides in the last couple of years to try and get outside of that. Go visit other places, make friends in other places in Miami. It's a little difficult at first, but I really, for me, I want to make sure that I may be a booster for downtown, but I want to make sure that I want to use my platform and what I've done to help the entire county. Yeah, that's what's important to me now. Yeah, but I do realize that it is a bubble.
And that was one of the things that actually attracted me, I guess, like really caught my attention about you, because you were able to tell me of different places outside of the tourist bubble. And I was like, how long have you been here? Like, it really took me back, because you don't know how many places and events I've gone to, and I say, oh, I'm from Miami, I'm a Miami native, and I get, oh, you're a unicorn. And I'm like, I'm not a unicorn. There's so many of us. It's just outside of these little areas. And I think if you're a company that is looking to launch here, and you really want to be lasting, you want to build to last, you need to understand those different markets. Understand that whatever your product is. One of the companies that honestly is trying to launch here is Helium Mobile. And they came around, they have a hotspot, and they wanted to put it on small businesses, right? So this is something that they went around small businesses, and the first shocker that they had was that they needed to know Spanish. Because majority of, even if you're a small business owner, majority of the businesses here, people only speak Spanish. So that was a shocker, and it was them at that point, I guess, not understanding that that was a market that they needed to go to. And also, I think another issue is with universities. We really, truly have one big university here, which is University of Miami. This is not a dig at FIU. FIU is also a great university. However, FIU is more transient. So with the college experience, right, the one university that is offering the big college experience where, there's more kids and staying in dorms and all that and the football games, it's really you. So whereas if you're targeting or looking for talent differently, I don't think FIU offers that same, I don't even know how to put it into the right words, but I guess that same experience that you would have in other cities outside of the US.
Oh, so you're saying that FIU is more like Americanized? Or
no, I think the other way around, in a way. Yeah.
FIU is like more Miami.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. FIU is more Miami, whereas like you would tend to have like even more students that are not from Miami, that are not even from the state of Florida, right? So you tend to have more students from DC, whereas like students that go to FIU are usually students that have lived and grown up in Miami, and they decided to go there, and they usually live at home.
Yeah. U is like one of those places. It's definitely a party school. It's funny. I always kind of forget. This is totally off topic, but I always forget that like in the wintertime, well, in the school season, US 1 south of like Brickell turns into like Ohio South.
But that's a big difference, right? So even
because when you go down there in the school season, it's like you have all the Kevin Kyles,
yes,
Connors,
yes,
from Ohio. Their parents sent them to you, so it's like, but then when it's not school season, you just go down there. It's just like regular Miami-Dade.
True, I could see that. But that brings me to the point, right? That it's like those companies that are looking out here to build to last, they're not understanding the markets and even understanding that within the same city, we can have two completely bipolar college and university experiences. And
that is something that gets me sort of, because Miami has always sort of had this perception problem. It's gotten better recently with tech and all of that, but when you say to Miami to a random person in Ohio or Indiana, they're going to be like, oh, beaches and South Beach. Going back to your tourist bubble. Yeah. People think that's all there is to Miami. And it's gotten better, but like we still have that perception problem. And so, when you say, I'm going to start a company in Miami, they're like, what? Like, why? Like, why would you go there? And with I think we did it to ourselves, right? Like, we are definitely one of the best cities to party in. Like, it's not a bad thing to have. I don't think so. So we definitely shot ourselves in the foot that way, right? Yeah. So we became known for that. But I also believe it has to do a lot more with the talent and the education that was being put forth in Miami. There was not necessarily a big emphasis on accelerators, or there wasn't a big emphasis in a lot of STEM schools. Like a lot of charter schools were started. And again, they were mostly for health, because that's really what our market traditionally has been: real estate, health. And I think also we've had the health, the real estate, tourism and hospitality, and like randomly like Burger King, I think. But yeah, I mean, that's basically it. We haven't had, Miami has never really specialized in anything except for those items. Right, exactly. And I think one of the challenges nowadays is not only ensuring as a city that we do have that talent in order so that companies can come here, look for talent in our own cities, right, and excel forward. I think another part of it is really understanding location as well. So where you're placing your company can also be a big differentiator of whether you're going to succeed or not, right? I saw a gym close down on West Ave. 2 different gyms closed down in the same location within a year. And it wasn't because they didn't have a good product, but it was because they didn't really understand who they were marketing to. That is crazy. That is a very interesting point about Miami. I follow a lot of real estate things. And there's only businesses and stores and retail. There's only 2 modes in Miami. You either open and then you're closed 6 months later, or you're there for 15, 20 years. There's like nothing in between. Yeah. Like I've seen a restaurant in Edgewater, a space has gone through like, in my 7 years here, it's been through like 5 concepts. Right. And then you ask yourself, what is it? Is it truly the space? But it can be truly the space when there's other locations around it that are excelling. I really do think it comes to the marketing and the messaging of it, especially the messaging of the people, right? Because one thing, and I think this is why the demographics of Miami is so important. So if you're talking about messaging, right, and you want to focus on the tourist bubble, like you call it, that is, consider it for the most part like your
advertising or marketing to Americans.
Yes.
However, if you want to go a little bit outside of the tourist bubbles, you need to understand there are some neighborhoods where it's primarily Cuban neighborhoods, right? And they have a completely message. And you can't just lump it all up into Hispanics or Latinos, because no, there are different cultures and different attitudes. And yes, we're similar in many ways, but the way that we communicate is completely different. And then you go to Little Haiti and you have the Haitians there. And then you go a little bit next and you have Liberty City. And those are completely different. Once again, you can't just classify them all as African Americans, because they're not, and they don't usually identify as that.
That is something I had to learn.
Yeah.
As a super gringo over here, I had to learn that, because when I was in other places, my only exposure, interaction with Latin culture would be Mexican.
Mm-hmm.
That was it. I mean, maybe some Puerto Ricans in the Northeast in New York, but really that was it. And then I moved here and I was like, oh, wow, it's a whole spectrum. And I had to learn that. I was uninformed about that.
Yeah.
And Miami is pretty much the only place where you get the entire spectrum of the Latin culture in one place in the United States.
Yes.
Maybe in the world. Because, you know, I know Latin America and the Caribbean is a big place, but it's still pretty, like, they're pretty much apart there. Miami's the only place where all of those cultures, all the ethnicities are all here in one place.
Absolutely. But I think what they, where companies tend to mess up is clumping them into just one different identity, because there's many different identities that need to be understood.
Exactly, because their marketing team looks like me.
Yeah.
And I know I'm throwing shade at myself here, but they have their marketing teams in Ohio.
Mm-hmm.
And trying to create a marketing that's going to resonate with different culture. If you're in Ohio with a non-diverse marketing team, and this isn't even like the whole like DEI thing. It's nothing to do with that.
No.
It is literally how you communicate with a culture that is different than the one that you are currently in.
Absolutely. Yeah. And that's the whole basis of this podcast, to, I guess, let company knows that if you want to build here and you actually want to build to last, you need to understand the market. If you want to focus on the tourist bubble, go ahead. That it's going to work for you, right? For that tourist bubble. But if you really want to expand and be here for the long run, take your time to understand these different demographics, these different beliefs, and understand that marketing tactics are not going to work. You can't lump all of the Latino community, Hispanic community into one messaging. You're going to probably need different messaging for them.
Yeah, I mean, when you're here, you can notice it. Like when a company is selling to, when a company that does good marketing is selling to Cubans or Haitians or Dominicans, it's a different marketing, different messaging, different creative.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the companies that do well.
Absolutely. And I think, for me, for the long time, I really realized like that was my specialty. Because I was like, okay, so many marketing companies in Miami, whatever, so many people moving down, oh my gosh. And then I realized, I was like, wait a second, I actually understand this market. I have seen companies come and go in this market. I know how people function here. And networking looks a lot differently in our community. Mm-hmm. I'll say that.
That is something that I tell all the transplants so just a quick side note, when people from other places are looking to move to Miami and Tech, I'm one of the people that they come to learn about that. I'm very active online, probably a little bit too much. So they find me and they're like, we're thinking of moving our company to Miami. We have some questions. So they come find me. And that is, I have this sort of list of things that I go through with them. And I'm like, you have to expect these things. And these are the things you have to do in Miami that are different. Mm-hmm. I say all the time, like we get more done here on boat days, at happy hours than most people do in like a boardroom. And that like blows people's brains, because Silicon Valley and stuff has taught the world that you have to be in an office or co-working space to get work done. Mm-hmm. And that in Miami is absolutely not true. You can take investors on a boat day. You can take your programmers out there, whatever. It's like, it's outside the office in Miami, the traditional settings.
I agree, and I think you can even take it a step farther, and that it's truly relationship, right?
Yes.
So relationship building, and this just goes for the Latino community. We don't, unless we truly know who you are, and like we've spent a couple of times talking and months, like we are not going to trust you, especially with our money. Like this is part of our culture. So sometimes I think when you're an outside company knocking on people's door and saying, "Hey, we have this for you, just get it," we're gonna be skeptical about it. It's just how we work. So understanding that, like you said, and business does look different here. It's more like you said, coffee dates. For me, I'm big on coffee dates. I love that.
Me too.
But that like transaction, it's not transactional. That's what I'm trying to say. It's not transactional. It's more relationship building. Yeah.
Well, and yeah, I mean, I know that firsthand because I spent almost 4 years doing that as an outsider. Between the end of 2020 and beginning of 2023, I probably did 300 or so coffee dates or whatever, like meet and greets with people who were thinking of moving here. Yeah. I would go to the random coffee. This is before I had Office Logic. Yeah. And I would go to these places and just meet people and talk to them for half an hour and just walk them through what Miami was and if it was a good place for them and what they need to do. So I did that probably 300 times.
I'm curious. I'm so curious. Like, what would you tell them? What would you walk them through?
Well, it dramatically varies depending on who it was. If it was someone from San Francisco, it was quite a conversation because I don't think there are any cities that are maybe more different than San Francisco, Silicon Valley, and Miami. They're just like opposite, but they're physically as far apart as you can get, and culturally, demographically, they're just incredibly far apart. So, for instance, in Miami, I'm going to say this: no one really cares what you do. They really don't. I say this: they really don't care what you do for money, I guess is what I'm trying to say. They might care what you do for a passion, but no one cares what you do for money. I work for a large credit bureau. And over my 7 years here, I've maybe been asked that like 20 times. Like, what do you do for money? No one cares. Mm-hmm. And also, no one cares if you work for a giant company or whatever corporation. They just don't care. Like in San Francisco, it goes like this. Hi, I'm Ryan. I work for Microsoft. I work for Apple. Like that's like my last name. It's like Ryan Microsoft. Yeah. Here in Miami, no one asks. Yeah. They care about what you're doing right now and what you're passionate about. So it doesn't impress them either. It actually kind of turns them off.
Yeah.
So
it's so funny. I just got a flashback. So I've always, for me, when I went, outside of Miami, outside of the US, it was so hard to impress me. Just because, we have so much here. And when I just went outside of it, I was like, this is it. I remember getting to college, to the University of Florida, and seeing the party scene and seeing everything and like all the places. I'm like, this is it? This is all you got? Like, I was so unimpressed by a lot of it. And don't get me wrong, I love my university, great education. But you're right. I think here we see so much and so much happens and opportunities come so quickly. That's really what happens because you meet someone not on some like I'm trying to find business, but just hey, we're cool, all that, hang out with them. Then you find out that they are the owner of this great big equity or things like that, and then opportunities happen for you that way, but you weren't even looking for them. It just happened.
I saw a really interesting saying or quote from my friend Omar Morales on Twitter yesterday. Mm-hmm. He was saying when success in Miami is more about a lifestyle because everybody has the things. We're surrounded by people who are successful or look successful. Yeah. But I'm saying we're surrounded by it 24/7.
Yeah.
Like everyone has the cool car, everyone has the apartment that overlooks whatever.
Yeah.
Everyone has that.
Mm-hmm.
So it's more like everyone here is pursuing a lifestyle, not the things. A thing, what I'm talking about,
like
an IPO or building a company or whatever. It's people are building it to get to a lifestyle,
right?
Not the thing.
Yeah.
And that is the main difference. And that is a totally different mindset than other tech places in the country. In other places in the country, it's about the thing, whatever the thing is.
Yeah.
Here in Miami, we all have the thing. So we just want to get to a lifestyle that allows us to have a nicer things.
Less stress. I don't even think it's that. It's less stress. At least for me, I'm just trying to be less stress.
Yeah, comfortable.
Comfortable, right? Like just comfortable,
Yeah.
being able. And I think we're pretty blessed. I can definitely speak for myself. I'm pretty blessed to have, manage my own time, run my own company, and have great friends around me. So.
And the other thing I tell people in that are looking to come here. I'm like, everyone in Miami has like 8 jobs.
Oh my God, yes.
It's not a place where like you just work at X, Y, and Z company or X, Y, and Z startup. You have like 8 different things happening at once. I have like 8 different jobs, and I enjoy them all. Yeah. But it is not a single focus city.
Yeah. I wonder why that is.
I don't have the answer, but I definitely think it's something cultural because, in my opinion, all of the people who are immigrants that I know are hustlers.
Yep. You took their words right out of my mouth.
They hustle. They get here from wherever they came from, and they hustle.
Right.
And Miami is a city of immigrants. Yeah. Literally. So Miami-Dade, I don't know if this statistic is still correct, but at least the last census, Miami-Dade was 75% Hispanic Latin. And a good chunk of those, that demographic, was not born in the U.S. I'm not sure what the percentage, but it's very high.
I'm part of it.
Yeah. So when those people get here from wherever they're going, they come here and they build things and they hustle, but they also want to have a backup plan.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah.
Because wherever they came from probably wasn't a very good setup.
Yeah.
So they want to make sure that they have plan A, plan B, plan C, D, E, F, G.
That is so crazy that you say that because my entire life I have been that way. However, I didn't honestly to this moment realize why. So even for, again, like back in college, I was like, okay, if I don't get here, I'm going to go here. Now I'm going to do this and plan A, B, Z, D. And even now, like it's actually it's sometimes I have to struggle with it, right? And just say like, just stick to one thing and see how it plays out. Because you're right, but it is that mentality that like this might fall down any moment. Your government might strap you down and take away all your rights in a split second and you gotta bounce or you gotta figure something out. And it's true. And it's like, I personally saw that firsthand. I saw my parents go through that firsthand and struggle and get me out of that country in order to be here. So crazy that you mentioned, but you're right. And that hustler feeling is in me, and it is still, I would say, passed down through generations because I'm a first generation, but my godson and my nieces and nephew, we are constantly telling them like, you have it so easy. This is how we grew up. Like we really passed that down and kind of like ingrained in them, like at any moment, you know, anything can be taken away from you. So make sure that you're covered.
Well, and that everything you just said is exactly right, but it ends up permeating the whole fabric of the city because Miami is a city of immigrants. And so when you have a mass of people that are like that, it influences the way the city works. So to take it all the way back around, that is what it is. It's that part of it. It's the city is hustlers and they all have 8 things going on and they don't care what you do for money.
Because everyone's wrapped up in their own head. Everyone's wrapped up in their own hustle. Everyone's moving forward. And in the mean of all that, we find the time to party it up and have a good time.
We work hard, but we live hard.
Yeah.
Not live hard. That's not the right saying. I always say this, and this is the number one thing that I tell transplants. In Miami, in San Francisco and other places, people live to work. Like work is I don't know, it's their god, whatever. It's their god, and that's what they do. They work. In Miami, we work to live. And it's not my saying, it's someone else said it. Yeah. But that is the most important thing. And getting people into people's heads is more difficult than it sounds. You always like deprogram them from like being like, okay, I'm gonna work and crazy hours, and I'm gonna go home and sleep and do it again. That's not how we do it in Miami. We work all day doing something, and then we go out and party Club 11 until 4 a.m. and then wake up and then go do our thing again. Right. So it's like...
Yeah. And you're right. Even like going back to the immigration point, that is your reward, right?
Yes.
That is your reward for working so hard. It's like, okay, but now I actually have the money and I have the opportunity to live like this and experience this and reward myself because where I came from, I didn't necessarily so much.
Yep.
So I want to do, there's a couple things. We're going to end the segment real quick. But before we go, I want to do a quick rapid fire.
Oh, boy.
In true Miami fashion. So, all right, ready?
Yep.
Okay. Julian Henry's or Smith & Wollensky?
Definitely Julian Henry's. Definitely.
Yeah, you like that place. It's a good place. Okay. Beach or pool?
Definitely beach.
Supposedly or supposedly?
Oh, boy. I mean... It's really supposed. Now you got me confused. Which one is it? Supposedly is the correct. Supposedly is the Miami version.
It's supposedly.
The Miami version.
Yeah. The only version that exists in my world.
I mean, I do both because I live in Miami now.
Okay. Literally or actually?
Literally, bro. Literally.
All right. Crypto or AI?
AI for sure. It's actually usable.
Okay. So I guess to just wrap it all up, do's and don'ts of marketing in Miami, I would say definitely do speak Spanish.
Oops.
Or at least place yourself.
Or at least understand Spanglish.
Yes.
And can you tell these people who are not here what Spanglish sort of is?
Yeah, so Spanglish is when you're speaking English all of a sudden, but then you go straight into Spanish. So I'm telling Ryan a story like, hey Ryan, the other day I called my mom, pero ella estaba, no sé, totalmente loca y no sabía qué decirme. And then I told her, Mom, like, can you calm down for a little bit? Like, seriously, come on, bro. And then she was like, ay, niña, tú siempre estás... That's Spanish.
That is how like 70% of people in Miami talk, for real. And I think that's beautiful.
Yeah, so that's English. You don't realize that you're doing it until like, you know, step outside and you're like...
And a lot of my friends just do it, and I just sit there like I pretend like I understand what they're saying. I'm like, you go, girl. Like, okay.
Yeah. So I guess if you don't speak Spanish, have someone maybe on your team that does. You know, that could help.
Multilingual is extremely important here.
Yeah. Understand that Miami demographics identify differently. So learn the different segments and figure out where it is that you actually want to be successful at. So if you're in the tourist bubble, you probably won't have, you know, a difficult time. But if you really want to expand to other markets in Miami, learn the demographics, the neighborhoods, the different people, the different Latinos in there, and how, you know, they identify overall and their cultures or values, how to message to them differently. What else? Don't just cater to the tourist bubble. And I guess don't lump everybody up into one category.
You cannot do that in Miami. It will not serve you well, and your company or startup will not survive.
Okay, so guys, that concludes the first episode of Strategizing with Anna. I want to say thank you to the Hub for hosting us and having us use this space in order to record, and we'll catch you on the next one.
Yeah, we'll see you guys soon. This podcast stream is available to members of the Hub, and you can use it, include it in your membership on a first come, first served basis. Bye, guys.